Hey guys, today I'll be talking about Copic markers and their alternatives. So let's start with Ohuhu markers. I first heard about these when I watched Drawing with Waffles video about Ohuhu markers. And so I purchased the 80 set, which came in a nylon bag, and it's a very sleek design. But one thing she did mention, I don't like how the caps don't fit on the other end, so that's a downside of the markers. Another huge downside of these markers is the cap really does not match the actual color. So colors like number 76, 68, 49, 28, 6, and 57 appear to be pastels, but when you put them down on paper, they're actually quite dark colors and very, very saturated. So that's a downside of the markers. It comes with virtually no pastels, and they're all very similar in saturation. They're all very dark colors. Um, I I wish that they had more skin tones, because the browns that they have are no one would use them for skin tones, and virtually no one has these type of skin tones because they're very yellow and murky, and they're just a not nice color. And so I wish the range of browns and earth tones were a lot bigger. I do love the quality of these markers. I love the ink. It's very good, and I know I just complained about the color range, but it comes with lots of reds, blues, greens, yellows, purples. So it comes with lots of different colors, but with the same saturation. So that's something you have to look out for. These markers are pretty cheap. I believe they're around $100 for an Australian for an 80 set. And they came very quickly to me, which was great. It was expected to take a month, but it came within a few days. So overall, I think these markers are great for beginners. They really are great, but just if you're looking for more pastel colors or lighter colors and stuff like that and earth tones, I would not recommend these markers. Next up, I'm going to be talking about the Winsor & Newton brush markers and Winsor & Newton Pro markers. So these markers are very expensive still. Compared to Copics, they're around the same price. So most Copic alternatives are very cheap, but these are different. The brush markers come with a brush nib, which the Ohuhu markers lacked, and a chisel nib on the other side. The color range for the Winsor & Newton brush markers is not very good. I think they're a newer installment, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but they don't have a very good color range. What I don't like about these markers is that they don't display the colors very well on the caps of each side. So on one side it's very hard to see the color, and on the other side it's a pointed cap, so that's not very helpful. So I have to store them in a clear plastic container, and whenever I wish to use them I have to take them out. The Winsor & Newton Pro markers come with a fine point nib and a broad point nib, and this might sound crazy to everyone else, but I prefer fine points and broad points over brush nibs. I think that's just a preference. It's pretty weird to most people though. Yeah, so overall these markers are great, especially the Pro markers. They have such a wide color range, which I think the brush markers lack. I would just change the design, the package design of these markers. The ink quality is very good and very saturated. And if you need a pastel and want a pastel, the pastels are still very saturated, but keep it pastel. So overall, I would recommend these markers. but to beginners I wouldn't, because I think they're still very expensive to start off with. Alright, the next markers I'll be talking about are Ironlak markers. These markers I think are so underrated. I don't see many people talking about them. They come in a black barrel, and you can get them with both a chisel nib and a fine point nib, or you can get the brush markers. So I got a set of 20 of these at a convention for $20, so that's $1 per marker. Of course at conventions they're cheaper, so that's where I would recommend to buy them. It was at Comic Con, so in Darling Harbour. They come in a good color range. There are some very deep saturated colors and some very light pastel colors. So but that again, that was in a 20 set, and it came in a nice nylon package. These markers overall, the ink quality is quite good. I don't think these are meant for as much art, like the type of art that you see in the speed draw in the background, and more for kind of street art styled art, less and less for portraits and stuff like that. So, because you can tell in how opaque they are, and they don't particularly blend that well. But I 100% would recommend these markers to a beginner, because they are amazing, and as a beginner I loved them, and they lasted me years, and they're still going, and I use them like every day, so that's a great thing about these markers. The next markers I'll be talking about are Mepxy markers. I don't have much to say about these ones. When I bought these at my local art store, they were said to be better than Copic's, but I very much disagree. The nibs are very fragile and they break very easily, the brushed nibs. The barrel is just, I really don't like it. It's a big bulky square barrel, and I actually use these markers twice, and they ran out of ink straight away. I don't know how that happened, because I actually used them in a really small portion of my drawing, and I just would not recommend these markers. Don't waste your money on them. That's the end of that. The next markers I'll be talking about are Kaiserfushion markers, which are a brand I've never heard of or seen being reviewed yet. These markers come with a fine point and a chisel nib. So these markers I know of are very cheap. The barrels are nice. It's very sleek design, and it's a bit boxy though. A downside about this marker is, oh, this really annoys me. There's a color G11, and it does not match the nib at all. So the cap appears to be a khaki color, but it's actually a lime green. And so, just like the Ohuhu markers, you really need to swatch these colors. But different to the Ohuhu markers is that they actually appear a lot lighter than the caps are, and it's a very translucent color, and you really have to put it down a few times for it to really, have an effect on the paper. I would recommend these markers though. Oops, my camera went a bit crazy. I'm sorry, you guys. I would recommend these markers to beginners. They do explode though, like for PP02, and that marker, it explodes, so the ink is like falling out and crazy. So finally, the last markers I'll be talking about are Copic markers. Copic markers are basically the be-all end-all. I've got around 50 of them, but only 10 of them really work. Great thing about these markers is that they're refillable. They are gorgeous markers, and they come with, the Copic sketch markers come in 358 markers. colors, so, but there's a catch. They are super expensive. They are crazy expensive, and $10 each for a Copic sketch marker. So you're better off buying the Copic trowel markers. Come with a nice brush nib and a chisel nib, and you can refill the markers, so keep all the barrels. And I think if you want to look more long-term into art, I would definitely recommend these markers. So that's all for the video today. Thank you very much for watching. I had to film this a few times because I kept on stuttering and having the hiccups. So I hope you enjoyed this, and now you know more about Copic alternatives and what markers to buy, because I myself have been looking at so many different markers to get because Copics are just way too expensive for me. But in the end, you'd rather invest in Copics. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you later.